I shall ask my panelists to join me over here on the stage. While they're joining, you can do that if you want. This is a nice thing, so everybody can know who's what. So I'll do that the same then. Okay, so as Abate said, today's topic with you guys over here is accelerating digital transformation through cloud. And reducing CapEx, digital transformation and optimization are the top issues for senior management globally. Over here in the region, historically, we've always seen that it's always been about control. However, new agendas to optimize the budgets, as well as the impact of digital transformation, is driving the region to move from CapEx to OpEx models. And of course, cloud plays a major role in this transformation. And at this panel, together with you all, we'll hopefully talk more about down-to-earth issues like what is the adoption like, what are the challenges that the industry, vendors, or partners are facing, and also how to overcome those challenges to make the cloud grow. I would also like you to just shortly introduce each of you. Maybe we're starting from Yusuf.
Yeah, most welcome everyone. My name is Yusuf Asheba. I'm the director of the Smart Services Development Department in Ajman Municipality.
My name is George Sebastião, ICT expert and cloud practice leader within Huawei.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Enrique Stalayo. I'm working for Orange Business Services, and my position is head of pre-sales, covering the whole Middle East, North Africa, and Turkey region.
As you have just seen, SAP, head of telecommunications.
Yeah, my name is Wilson Xavier from Do. I take care of the data center and cloud business for Do.
Perfect. So let's start with a very generic question as an opening topic. How do you gentlemen see the adoption of cloud in the region at the moment, and what are the perspectives going in the next 5 years? Maybe start with Wilson.
Sure.
On this side.
If you look at cloud adoption per se, I mean, it's interesting to see the history of the adoption in the global scale and how they transformed in the region. So what we see is we've seen an evolution on the customer space from kind of what Abu mentioned, kind of pure play IT room, moving down to virtualization level, and then moving down to private cloud or virtual cloud, and perhaps moving towards public or hybrid, right? That's kind of the journey we see of maturity of the customers. But if you look at the region specifically, what we've seen is in the last 3 years, the region has gone through a bit of very early stage of cloud takeoff, and especially so on the public and the hybrid cloud side. I mean, people tend to use the cloud and word cloud and sometimes abuse the word cloud. But if you see the last 3 years has been the real kind of basic critical mass of cloud being built in the region. So I think that's very positive. But what we potentially see for the next 3 to 5 years is actually a real, kind of acceleration of adoption of public cloud and a large piece of hybrid cloud. And I think to what Bullen mentioned in the session, we also see, besides the horizontal cloud and the value stack, we also see a lot of verticalized cloud services, and to an extent, things like smart cities and so on. So we see a lot more value of the vertical play that comes into the region.
Okay. Wilson, maybe from your perspective?
I mean, first of all, I need to say honestly and proudly that the adoption rates we have in this region is even better than the other regions we have globally, the cloud adoption.
Okay.
Of course, I need to commit that the revenue, I mean, the volume is not comparable to, for example, the US markets or so, but in terms of the growth and adoption growth is unbelievable here.
But are you talking about SMP SaaS adoption?
SaaS,
specifically?
yes,
Okay.
SaaS. I'm mainly talking about SaaS.
Of course.
Yeah. So, therefore, we are doing lots of investment in this region as well, as SAP globally. And we see a huge opportunity to grow, this business. So, as you have just, heard in my previous presentation, so we do partnerships with mainly the telecom operators to develop not only the SaaS, our SaaS business, but jointly develop the cloud revenue through telecom operators. We sell it as the sell-through model. So I use, for example, Do as my channel.
Right.
And they provide everything. They provide the infrastructure, the platform, and the software to the different end users. So that is also driving my revenue
Right.
as SAP, plus the whole cloud revenue, of course, in the region. So therefore, we see a huge growth in all dimensions. But again, the volume is small, but it's growing heavily in this region.
Okay, understood. Enrique?
Yes, I think that it was Mr. Gim this morning who was mentioning or sharing some figures from analysts like Gartner about the spending in cloud services currently.
Right.
So this year, I think it was the figure was related to or exceeding 240 billion euros spent on cloud services worldwide. This means 18% increase growth referred to last year in 2016. If you follow also the analyst predictions, they state in this case IDC that by 2020, so in a few years from now, 38% of the total infrastructure expenditure will be related to cloud services in a way.
This is global numbers again.
These are global numbers. So definitely I would start by saying that by 2020 we would all agree that first cloud or even only cloud policies will be everywhere, and even those companies that currently are a little bit more defensive or reluctant into implementing cloud policies, they will have to move into the cloud. If we focus a little bit just on the GCC and the current situation,
Right.
and here I'm just quoting Gartner, there are several reasons why the adoption of cloud is a little bit slower than in other regions like Western Europe or North America. If we compare it with Africa, Asia, I do agree with you, Bülent, that maybe the situation is different, even though I am considering not only the solution as a service model, but also infrastructure as a service, so a little bit broader. Okay, so according to Gartner, in this region, the main reasons why this adoption is a little bit slower are several. On one side, the lack of proper use cases for the public cloud, which in my opinion should not be a stopper. Second is definitely the absence of hyperscale cloud providers in the region, like Microsoft or Amazon. In this case, the closest Amazon data center for the region is either in Mumbai, India, or in Frankfurt, Germany. Third, the preference of local companies to build or deliver their own solutions, internal solutions. And of course, we cannot forget about the regulation framework, which is in some occasions not clear. I'm not talking about UAE here, I'm keeping a broader
Yeah, we're talking
scope.
about the region.
And of course, the big issue about data sovereignty, which is definitely something that it is a big topic, and it is somehow concerning most of the companies, government, and the multinational in order to move into the cloud. From OVA's side, based on our interaction with the local customers, what we see is that definitely data is something that it is a hot topic. It is something that needs to be addressed. But regardless, we see that companies, and I agree with my colleague from Do now, companies are really increasing the pace in adopting cloud solutions currently, normally going for hybrid modes. And the main reason for that is because they are trying to reallocate all their either testing and development platforms because they want to move their web applications, but also due to disaster recovery or business continuity reasons, and of course in a high-performance computing environment. So it is definitely something that it is very trendy now in the region, and all our customers are asking us about our cloud capabilities and how they can address this challenge, and how can we help them in this.
Okay, okay. George, maybe from Huawei perspective?
Well, I think from Huawei's perspective, I can see the region as being a $1 billion business in cloud. Are we there yet? No, I think we have a long journey ahead of us because obviously there's quite a few challenges that remain. Some of challenges are in various areas. It could be security, sometimes real or perceived. Other areas has to do with the maturity of the customers and adopting cloud, because when you're trying to move to the cloud, it's not just the availability of the cloud services being there. It's sometimes the transformation that is required to actually move to the cloud.
Yeah.
So you need to assist and take the customers through the journey of migrating to that cloud. However, I see a very good opportunity as well, because usually as well, customers in the region don't make decisions, they arrive at decisions. There's a big difference between making a decision and arriving at a decision. Making a decision means you look at something maybe based on price or other criteria, and you move forward. Arriving at a decision is if you perceive a risk, you have this tendency to delay the decision because the importance of time is not always there. So our job is to really help the organizations remove any risk factors so they can arrive at the decision in a faster way. And one of the better ways to actually do that is to bring more use cases. And I think in the case of Open Telecom Cloud is certainly one of these use cases that is extremely important to mention. And here we actually see a very important transformation in OTC Cloud. OTC Cloud is not just about selling IaaS, PaaS, or SaaS. Because at the end of the day, if you're selling just virtual machines, it's a relatively small business. You have to look at the big picture. When you go to a customer, what he wants a complete solutions. So if I'm an organization like Volkswagen, I don't want to just move a few VM machines. I want a trusted partner that is actually going to help me run my business. This is why this partnership of 3 ways, which involves a telecom operator, a Huawei, and software organizations, creates a triad that is successful in doing that. That means you're able to deliver to that customer the expectations that he is looking for in terms of cloud plus a combination of managed services. So it's like a complete managed cloud.
Perfect. Okay. Yusuf, maybe from government and public perspective, I think
so
it's...
from government perspective, it's totally different. The idea is why the adoption is much faster in the private sector than the public sector.
Right.
Now, the private sector is always looking for the profit, looking for lower operations, looking for more opportunities when it comes to analyzing all of the data they have in order to take that decision. That doesn't make any difference. Our benefit as a government also in the area of making people happy, making sure that we are delivering the service. But we have some extra commitment, which it is the governance of the services itself and the, the regulations. Now, even in the regulations, I was actually thinking while I was coming all the way from Ajman to here, there were no single statement in the government side to say that don't use the cloud. I can beat in that even. Get me any document that says never use the cloud. There is nothing like that. The only thing is that we have a statement very clear about the governance of data. That's all. So when it comes to the governance of data, we have to classify it, and that is the extra effort that till now is not happening on the government side. It's happening in a very small scale. Dubai Data is one of the government initiatives, which it is classifying all of the data in order for them to move forward. Now, those open data areas and open procedures and open integrations will eventually come to the cloud for sure. There will be an integration. I'm assuming by 2018, there will be in the cloud of big names here, I can see that there will be some adapters to connect with Dubai government. There will be something like that for sure. If you want to utilize the parking, maybe there will be an API for that to utilize that capabilities as well. So you can consume. Shipping companies can directly integrate with the parking system in Dubai, maybe in the future, and even in Ajman. We already have an open API, but it is under kind of clearance from the security point of view. Now, to be frank, for sure, usually the private sector is much faster in the adoption of the new things because they look at the opportunity in a different way.
Yes.
And we support them as well in that initiative. However, we would like to see the change even in the government soon, inshallah, in the next steps. And we are using the cloud, but not in the full-fledged of adoption, of running our business. That is totally different. I can see that the government in the Europe and others, they are running their services, some like visa applications. Currently, some of the European companies, governments are running their service totally 100% in the cloud. But they have some regulations that make these things like the 27,008 standard, which it is applied in some of the companies that allow them to go with that further. So we hope these things to be implemented even in UAE in specific and the GCC in order to attract the government to move forward in the adoption of the cloud.
Right, right.
Thank
We've
you.
also seen that mainly the adoption of private cloud was the main mode for deployment in the governments. And obviously with those regulations that you're talking about, the public cloud would be also viable option.
Private cloud at the end does not give you the full-fledged of
Exactly.
interacting with the outsiders. If you want to really deliver your services, you have to be open as much as possible. You cannot just build that private cloud and sit in your own zone. There is no change. Actually, it's actually moving your VMs to co-location. No, that's not what we don't. What we don't want to do is to repeat the mistake. If we want to move to the cloud, we want to move with services delivery, publicly, okay? Because people talk about security, but security is not the only concern in the cloud. It's not the only concern. There is other concerns in the cloud services. How long is the contract between you? Whether there is an option to move from one cloud to other cloud. Is it the same? Whether it is in UAE or the same, it is like in USA to choose your cloud to go to Azure or others. Is it like a simple click? Or does it require a lot of regulations and a lot of legalization as well to go to the courts in order to move your
Yes.
business?
Okay.
These are very important subjects.
Thank you. Wilson, I think from your perspective as a vendor, you talk a lot with the enterprises over here in UAE specifically. What are the key pain points and restraints that they tell you that this is what the issue I have when I talk about moving to cloud? Sure. What are those restraints that you've seen?
This is interesting. If you're looking at, let's say, the government or the semi-government or the regulated sector or the large enterprises, I think the themes that comes out of these conversations, number one, cloud is sort of a journey, right? So basically they expect a services partner to get into a deep discussion, to guide them through the path. I think the gentleman from the government mentioned that here. They expect to see what are the stages through which they should be guided. So whether the starting step is, moving some of the non-critical workload to the cloud in terms of public, or you have some of the critical workloads to move in-house and to have almost like a seamless integration of those services across, so they get, kind of value and benefit and security of on-prem versus all the scale and economy of benefits on the off-prem, and have an aggregation of those application services. So basically, one of the things we clearly understand that the service providers need to have a deep consulting engagement to drive them to the path of a cloud model.
Yes.
And really for them to get the true benefit of, digital transformation. Mm-hmm. So this is one kind of the core theme we get. The second, obviously, many of the organizations obviously has a lot of, legendary infrastructure, kind of processes, and, a kind of attitude and, approach to different, applications and services. And what we see is, and I think all of us agree to the fact that, typically it's driven by IT in the old days. Now there's a lot of businesses that's driving the theme.
Yes.
So what they expect is to have a deeper conversation with the businesses while have a deeper conversation with IT teams of these, so that we're able to bridge the value and actually help to transform the businesses, both from a business perspective and an IT perspective at scale. And given the times we are in, how do we bring in cost benefits to the IT while we bring transformational value of digital services to the businesses? So this way there's a true value that comes in. These are the kind of conversations we tend to hear. The other piece is obviously, especially in this region, is around data security, data sovereignty, data residency, which is interesting for someone like telco, because we follow the standards of the country, standards of the region when it comes to those elements. So that's a kind of confidence that we can bring to the table. But yes, that is another critical scenario. They would like to have a conversation.
Right. And who are those decision makers that talking about it? Is it still IT teams and CIOs, or is it mainly?
This is interesting. I think we had some conversations on data and data democratization and data monetization. I think if you want to throw some buzzwords of names,
Yeah.
there's, chief security officer could come into the play. because earlier they had a private infrastructure, now it's getting public, private, or hybrid. So CSO comes into play. There's CDO comes into play with Chief Data Officer.
Oh.
Then there is a Chief IT Officer, so to speak, on the whole. And there is a Chief Application Player comes in. You could probably have a Chief Marketing or a Business Officer that comes in.
So everybody has their
Right?
say.
And then when it comes to true digital services, there's customer experience that comes in. So if an organization has a chief customer experience officer, they come in because you're taking their pure play infrastructure into a dynamic model to provide 24/7, and that too on a larger IT scale and at scale to serve the customers at any point in time. So what is that last mile customer experience that company wants to serve?
Okay, so at the end of the day, it's not one CXO's decision anymore. It's the whole strategy, or the whole company has to drive that change.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. From a SAP perspective, I think software as a service adoption has lesser challenges, but I'm still sure there are challenges. Maybe you can talk about them a little more.
In fact, I just want to add in terms of what drives this business. I think the main thing that drives this business is time to market and focusing on business. So for example, as you just asked, people are willing to consider their business only. So think about a very simple case, which is, you run a company that produces this water, you have 1,000 employees. And how to manage that 1,000 employee? So you have, IT teams that manages your, HR applications. You have, your HR organization that manages those things. So lots of people are engaged. And in order to, this is not the core function of this company, because the core function is the production.
Of course.
Bottling, selling this. HR is not the core function. So, and due to that, most of the time, when the CHRO has a request, it's not a top priority in the ITs or the CTOs or list of orders. So therefore, that falls into the least important functions. But, you need to manage that 1,000 employee. So that is why, business is taking more responsibility, and, cloud solutions enable these companies or even LOBs to be more fast in terms of time to market, so that the core IT teams are focusing on the core functions, like, production of this, and, selling all this. But the other things are moving, okay, let's move it to the cloud, and let's have somebody else taking care of the maintenance of this application and other things, so that, CHRO, for example, takes ownership and goes further. But of course, this is a cultural change. So if you ask about the challenge, this is the main challenge we have. Because yes, we talk about these things, the business LOBs love this concept, but when we go to the CIOs, CTOs, they say, okay, take a seat, please, and the discussion starts. Because, you're taking something from their parts and, putting it into cloud. So that is the main discussion. But when we talk about the security issues, how the SLAs are covered, how the system is flexible, if the person is very open-minded, it is so easy to come to a conclusion and agreement. So therefore, it is a challenge, but it takes some kind of a time to educate, to have the understanding of it.
Okay, thank you. Enrique, from Orange Business Services perspective, maybe not about the challenges, but about the latest initiative that you partnered with Huawei for the new global public cloud offering. And the services are rolling out in Western Europe, as Southeast Asia as well, and soon it's going to be here in Middle East and Africa for scheduled 2018, I think. So could you tell us a little more about this cloud offering? And as I understand, it's public cloud. And what are the perspectives in the Middle East for this?
Yes, of course. It will be my pleasure. So first of all, in Orange Business Services, we want to our ambition is to become the trusted partner of our customers in accelerating their cloud computing transformation. That is very clear. So in this sense, 3 years ago already, we created our own cloud business unit named Orange Cloud for Business. And we started developing our value proposition and providing our skills and capabilities to our customers in different flavors, public, private, and a hybrid cloud, of course. But after this time, well, we realize, and I believe that everybody in this room will agree with me, that the current scenario forces companies also to establish partnerships, strategic partnerships in this case. So in Orange, when we decided that well, we wanted to reposition ourselves as a top and global leader in the enterprise cloud services market, we look for technology partners that we could work on. And definitely, in this case, Huawei was the best positioned one. We decided that it was the right time to approach them, to partner Huawei, and we had some discussions a long time ago. Happily, in 30th of July last year, 2016, we signed this agreement. We have worked together with our Huawei colleagues for a long time. And the value proposition is very clear. Huawei is the public cloud provider in this case, and we are mainly delivering our services on top, services that are related to cloud as a business, as we would like to call them. So those are cloud services where we are operating, monitoring, and maintaining the cloud services on behalf of our customers. Also, application management. So in this case, we are assessing, moving, and running the critical applications of our customers. We are, in this case, moving from the, let's say, infrastructure management side to the critical application management position. And finally, of course, leveraging on our professional services in terms of audits, in terms of assessment, in terms of migration, in terms of our skills and capabilities. All this has already been bundled. The product name is Flexible Engine. So, inshallah, we will not be talking any longer about OTC maybe in the future, and we will listen more about Flexible Engine with us. And as you have mentioned, this is an ongoing activity. We already have one data center in Europe. Last week, we announced the opening of the second data center in Singapore, 25th of April. The roadmap for this year is to have 2 more data centers, one in Frankfurt, the second one in Atlanta. And in 2018, the first new data center will be based in the region.
In the region, okay. Thank you. George, I think it's interesting that Enrique mentioned that Huawei is public cloud provider. And recently, of course, Huawei announced the launch of their 4th business unit, which is Cloud Business Unit. So maybe you could talk about a little more about what is the role and task of this business unit as per Huawei, and also what are the Huawei perspectives and in the region, and how do you see the current ecosystem from vendors, providers, as well as the end users in the region over here? What is missing in that ecosystem to drive the public cloud adoption?
Okay. Well, first, when Huawei created this business unit for cloud, it's primarily about providing focus. At the end of the day, if you want to service the customers in the best way possible through the ecosystem of partners, as this includes both the direct customers as well as via the telco organizations, you need to have a thorough understanding in order to be able to do that. So when we created this business unit, there's many elements. One is the work that we have done with OTC is basically being expanded. And by the way, although we talk only about OTC, it's no longer just OTC. We have done the same thing with Telefonica. We have done it with Orange as well. And now we're taking this intellectual property that we've put together to build a much more rich catalog of services. Because at the end of the day, the customer today wants a complete end-to-end solution. The second element that comes along with that business unit is to establish the proper trust. So it's a completely secured solution. That means it's CSA certified. It has gone through the necessary kicks of the can in order to meet the regulation that organizations are looking for. The other important last element in this solution is the fact that it's now focusing on vertical industries. So in terms of just going to get an infrastructure as a service or platform as a service, now we're looking towards getting vertical solutions. And one certainly example of that is the work that we have done with local organizations, like what we call the Media Cloud. Media Cloud is taking the application of cloud in a particular vertical market. A second example of that will be the CCTV cloud, in which, as you know, many ministries of interior in the regions have passed regulations in which organizations must preserve history both of their CCTV as well as their call logs and others. So this CCTV cloud automatically will enable a complete turnkey solution. The final element that I think is important about this business unit is that not one single organization is able to provide all the solutions. So this is why the ecosystem of partnerships, the Open Lab actually plays an extremely important role.
Correct.
And in this Open Lab, we actually bringing Huawei hardware, other partners' hardware. We have a multitude of software partners, including SAP and many others that we have here. And then we are able to actually test the solutions to make sure they actually run in the real world, to do things like stress testing of these solutions.
Okay, thank you. Since we're running a little bit short of time, I would like to open the floor for the audience. Would anybody have any questions for any of the panelists over here? Yeah, can we have a microphone maybe for the gentleman, please? Maybe you could just introduce yourself quickly.
Yeah, Ismail Salmin, Viva Kuwait, in charge of enterprise. My question is actually two parts. It requires governments and do's answers, basically. For the first question to Mr. Youssef, so the government are usually slow, as you've mentioned, and different countries.
It's not about the slow.
It's not about slowness, but
about
let's say it's not as fast as private sector.
We are concerned about you and others. So we take our time to study before taking decisions. While our hands internationally is limited when it's compared to the private sector.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you compare us to Huawei, we are not equivalent for sure. When Huawei have more than 100 offices all over the world, they have a lot of information which they gather to take a decision. For us, we are locally present and we take our decision internally, and we are linked to the federal government to take that decision. That's all. Anyway, continue. Let's see what is your question.
Sorry, I'm just going to switch to Arabic 1 second. The question is, so what is the government usually specifically looking for? Is it cost reduction from their end? That's why they go to the cloud? Or is it better services for the people living in the country? Why would the government switch to a cloud solution, basically?
So, cost is one factor, but it is not taking more than 20 to 30% of our decision, for sure. Because the idea is not to take over based on cost only. Sometimes you reduce the cost and you provide a very poor service. That does not add value. For sure, you can find better team to manage your ICT in a very less and very cheap, but you deliver a very bad service at the end. What is really we are looking for is, and I want to highlight Huawei and do in that area, we are looking for innovation. And when we talk about this part, is actually we look at what is really smart in the way to deliver that service. How much is it smart to deliver the service to the end user? Now, when we say it is smart, I'll give you an example. Dua and Etisalat, both of them provide the capabilities of SMS parking payment through their apps. So there is a window for that service through their services. When it comes to the customer relation management, we already have some integrations with them as well, in order to know who's in that area is connected to now currently in this area, so we can pass the messages for them in order to deliver a specific service, or to attract them for specific government services, or to make them aware about that services. Now, service is the most important part. It's not just the cost. Cost is one factor, but the most important, how much they will add value. If I go to Orange or Salesforce or others and present my service there, what will be the value for me to expand this service? Will I have capabilities to go beyond that level, or just my application will run under their cloud? There is one statement which yesterday I was looking at actually from IT perspective. IT managers, those who like servers. It's the era of serverless. That's what is really has to be transformed to their minds in order for them to take a decision. There is no servers anymore. This is what's going to happen after. The servers is for those big names. They will manage it for you. You decide about the next services and how they are going to be integrated, how they are going to be presented to the end user in a much efficient way, most reliable for them. And the last thing is the trust. How much it's trustable. Good service does not have any issues that at any point of time someone want to use the service, they has to be available for them. That's what we are looking for. I'll give you one example of payment. We are working with three major service delivery partners. Payfort, Mashriq Bank, and the Emirates of Abu Dhabi, which is the national federal government for finance for e-dirham. The three of them are delivering the service for us. And we choose all of those because they are delivering it in much reliable way. Although there is much service providers in the UAE, but those are the top ranked for us as of now. And now Etisalat and do part of those. So we have 5 payment providers at the same time now currently as Ajman government and especially. So the cost is not the factor, it's the service and how it's going to be delivered. And we have to be ready for the next step, which it is moving to the cloud. As of Ajman government and specifically Ajman municipality, I would like to announce that we recently went with Huawei and their cloud offering. We have an infrastructure currently in Ajman municipality and the project called Sanad in specific. And Sanad first phase is to transform all of the applications internally, and then eventually we'll have a partnership with them in order to move it to the cloud with the regulations and the governance as well. So there is a roadmap for us in the next 3 years from now to move everything in the cloud. That's a decision internally within the Ajman government and specifically in Ajman municipality.
Thank you, Yusuf. Maybe the
Part
question.
2 of the question.
Yes.
Yeah. So earlier, Abu Mustafa, I believe, mentioned that DO won the contract for the smart city in UAE. So during the negotiation phase, and not technically, because technically, obviously, you guys are ready, but what were some of the hurdles you guys faced before getting the deal, basically?
I mean, before going specifically on the smart cities per se.
Preferably, yeah.
Yeah, so I think prior to that, we had won the proposition for running the FedNet framework of cloud service for all the federal ministries of UAE. Smart city was, next step in the journey of that, and we've moved into do many other government, semi-government specific cloud services. Broadly, the kind of key parameters any of these government institutions, including Smart Dubai, look like is one, obviously, they want a partner who has a strong vision of long-term that they can guide them through this path, similar to the piece I was talking about. The second is different innovative models, financial modeling. So you could look at, a whole stack being CapEx, a part of it being CapEx or some part of it being OpEx. You could have a revenue share model. You could have pay-as-you-go, pay-as-you-use or pay-as-you-grow model. Some of the models, in fact, I would like to thank our friends Huawei as well, where we work deeply to evolve some of these financial models. So one element is the kind of journey of technology and the kind of upgrade we can bring to the table. The second is, obviously different financial models. The third, obviously, is critical to the country's data residency, data security, data privacy, and then, making sure the primary and the DR of these environments are within the country and runs with a framework, what is governed by the laws of the country, including the data laws and the laws of telecom regulatory standards. So these are some of the key expectations, one on finance, one on technology, one on security standards. Besides, obviously, efficiency, time to market, a talent pool of resources within DO who can kind of take them through the path and kind of give. So we have something called Platinum Service Support, which is matured over the course of time for telecom. Now that is evolved for dynamic services for ICT play. And again, the other important thing is infrastructure, which comes by nature. So we manage a network of data centers of Tier 3 plus, of 5.9 standards, which Abu was mentioning, and the connectivity. So imagine, let's take the case of smart city, for example, or smart city in any shape or form. They expect an ecosystem because it doesn't run by in isolation. So they expect, how do we bring the value of the rest of the ecosystem within the country? So there's a critical mass of consumers or B2B or B2C that can bring value to this model. The other important element, I think, in the course of Smart Dubai conversation, I don't know if you've seen in GITEX, we showcased was data analytics. I think some of the gentlemen here had a conversation about data lakes and data aggregation, application aggregation and application sharing model. So any of the smart city application brings a lot of data together, whether it's a private or a public data, and how that can be brought together for value, for citizen consumption, or it can be provided for private, for monetization. That again brings the cost down of running such an infrastructure and brings value on a long term. So obviously someone like Smart Dubai or any smart city for that matter looks at a partner who has a kind of vision, has a long-term strategy, and I kind of refer this conversation, taking it slightly offline. I used to work in Seattle before with Microsoft. We used to look closely at Amazon, just to give a different perspective. If you look at cloud, which is roughly 12 years old, if you really look at it, 2005 to 2017, most of the cloud piece in this part of the world has happened 3 years, but US globally probably 7 to 8 years of maturity. AWS has probably not made a single dollar of profit for 10 years, and we used to wonder how come you can run this. So cloud is a long-term game. So someone like Smart City or Smart Dubai really looks at to see who's a partner who has a technology, financial model, infrastructure, services, security, and value over a long term of 10, 20 years, and that kind of vision. So I think these are the key elements we've come across in those conversations.
Thank you, Wilson. It answers your question.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, gentlemen, a lot. And all of the gentlemen on the panel will be available throughout the day. So if you have any further questions, you will be able to talk to them in person. If I personally have to wrap it up in a couple of sentences, what has been said today on the stage, I think to drive the adoption, we have to have the demand side talking, supply side talking the same language as the demand over here in the region is understanding. I'm really happy to see the partnerships that are happening in the region from vendor perspective to also bringing the relevant and local case studies to the end users to understand the potential and the benefits of the cloud. And I think through the conferences like these and many others, the demand side right now in the region is also becoming more aware about the advantages, about the benefits the cloud can bring, and the ecosystem is definitely heading the right direction coming to the future. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.